Hello there and a happy Friday. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Julie. I am a neurologic physical therapist and the owner, founder of re+active therapy and wellness here in the Los Angeles area, and got so excited last night in our Dystonia course based on the questions that people were asking that I wanted to do a live today. Just on one of the questions that came up, we did get to talk through it in the course, which, by the way, the Dystonia Course, we did it live last night. It's now, the recording's up, available. All of our resources are there, including this resource. But I wanted to demonstrate. We had a really great question. So, by the way, in our Dystonia course, we went through our framework of assessment and treatment in dystonia, and we talked a lot about the sensory system. I put this as a poll in our Instagram stories, and a lot of people want to treat the sensory system, but don't necessarily know how, and they're not quite doing it yet. And so this is one of the ways that we both assess and then move into treatment of the sensory system in dystonia, but also many other disorders. So many physical therapists are aware of this test as the joint position error test. It involves a laser headlamp. So I'm going to strap mine on here because yes, I have a headlamp at home because I got some cervicogenic dizziness after I had a bout of vestibular hypofunction. So I had to do some of this head laser training, and it's really attractive. So here I am looking very cool in my head laser lamp. This one's cool because it actually has a flashlight and a laser. I won't shine it in your eyes. But typically what we would do, put a head laser light on. Then we've got our target. So, by the way, this is freely downloadable online to get the target and the instructions for it. What you're typically doing in a standard test of this is sitting, and you're sitting about 3 feet away from the target, level with the target so that you're right at the 0 mark, right at the bullseye. And so you've got this on the wall about 3 feet from you. Now, we got a really great question. This is, I think I need to tighten up my headlamp because it's sliding. Really great question that came up in the course was, well, what about in the perfect person with cervical dystonia who can't get to neutral? Where do you start this? So such a good question. And we brought up a couple of things with that. One is that you can go into alternative positions. So this is what I wanted to show you. And Chelsea talked about this really nicely in the course. Typically, the upright position unsupported is the most challenging position in cervical dystonia. And actually, not just upright, but moving, walking, standing, typically the most challenging. So we will often modify the position, and we'll first find the position where the person has the most control, because we don't, the point of the test is not to see how much control they have. The point is to actually see if they can find midline, right? So we'll take this into a different position, and a very common position where we will see the dystonia sometimes completely disappear is quadruped, or even sitting with hands down. So I'm going to show this. What you would do is you would take this onto the ground. Let's see if we can get there. Hello, can we go? Here, oh, we're right at my desk. I'm going to show it on the wall then. So I'll go up here to the wall. So this, by the way, you could do this at the wall and see also if this decreases their dystonia. So I put this up on the wall. Now, obviously, we're not going to be 3 feet away anymore. So some of the norms that you would find, like greater than 4.5, errors greater than 4.5, which is outside of the yellow here, that's not going to be the same if you're not 3 feet away. So we would go here then into this position of quadruped and see if they have more control, if they can get to neutral, turn their head and find neutral again. That's the most common. Another position that I will often take people, I'm going to take this off because it's going to slide off my head, is to be in sitting and head down. So almost like a modified quadruped position, and we'll do the same thing. And what we'll typically find is that, one, it is hard to find midline, not in everybody, but in a lot of people with cervical dystonia. And number two, one direction is more impaired than the other. And that gives us a place to start. Some of the other things that we've also found is laying supine and supported can be helpful for people. And so in that case, we can put something up above them and we can actually use the 3 feet distance, or we could put it on the ceiling. And then that person actually has some support, knowing they're getting more proprioceptive support through their body and their head while they're doing it supine. And documenting that, right? So this is going to be different than the standard JPE assessment that we do. The other thing that I talked about last night that is really common in dystonia is sometimes when you put the laser lamp on, you're actually getting a lot of feedback about where your head is. And if you have cervical dystonia with a tremor or a lot of movement, it actually can be distressing for the person to see how much movement the laser is having, and it can worsen the dystonia. So if anything, sometimes putting on that laser lamp draws in an internal focus and highlights the abnormal movement and can worsen it. So that's something to be aware of, is even just doing this test can worsen somebody's dystonia. And I've had it where I put it on, the person gets totally worse, and we just take it off. We abandon ship. This is not a good test, not a good treatment for that person. The other thing that we found is some people have some visual and light sensitivity, and looking at the laser is really problematic. So we don't use the laser. We might use something else, like a noodle on the head. You've seen our use your noodle. So use the noodle on the head. Use a different, not a light source that's giving feedback for the joint position error. The other thing I wanted to show is that we don't just do this for cervical dystonia. So we will strap the laser on, and I know a lot of other people do this as well, to any body part. We will still even use our same target. And so, for example, if somebody has dystonia in their arm or the leg, we'll use the laser strapped to that and have them identify their joint position that way. It's a really nice external focus and can give us some great data. We can get the error amount that they have, and then we can use that, and the person can use that for treatment. It's really nice to be able to have something the person can do on their own for sensory treatment. We talked about this last night. Sometimes sensory treatment in a home program takes another person to be there. And we don't always have other people at home to help us. So any way that we can set up home treatment to be done independently is really nice. So again, so simple, low cost for assessment and treatment in cervical dystonia of just one of the many ways. We talked probably about 30 different ways you could assess and treat the sensory system in dystonia last night in our course. But this is a really simple, low-cost way. So one head laser lamp, one target, freely downloadable online. If you're not already using the JPE, I highly recommend it. And instructions are part of the download for it as well. And then just modifying the position to use it in cervical dystonia. I love it. It's so simple. And it gets you right to, when you modify the position, gets you right to where you're going to start in some graded exposure. Because if that's inverted, if it's supine, if it's quadruped, that's where you're going to start. And then you're going to work your way back up to upright with that person. So there you have it, just one little nugget thanks to some great questions last night in our course. I'm definitely going to be hitting on more because we had so many good questions in the course. It was really a dynamic crew. Over almost 60 people joined us last night for our Dystonia course. I'll remind you that you can get the Dystonia course anytime. It is the recorded course is available, and you can get that at reactiveeducation.com/dystonia. And even if you're a person with dystonia, this course, by the way, was geared towards physical therapists, occupational therapists for sure. But the resources there would be great for you if you're a person with dystonia to advocate for what you need from your healthcare providers. So you can get that at reactiveeducation.com/dystonia. And thanks so much for joining me today for this little neuro nugget. I will catch you again next week, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.